Sonic the Hedgehog has been racing down a brand new road these past years. His world of wisps and wonders has enjoyed over 35 years of world building. That's almost as old as I am, and between games, television, and the longest licensed comic book of all time, we're no stranger to the odd world-ending disaster. Sonic Frontiers, on the other hand, took our understanding of the world to new and alien places. On one paw, giving the answers to age-old mysteries and lore, but on the other, raising even more questions. A baffling amount of questions. Secrets still buried in those ruins after thousands of years. Why did the ancients become the Chow we know today? What really was the end? And what part did Hypersonic play in all of this? Well, let's make it a lecture. Hello! You're just in time. The lecture is about to begin. Don't mind the state of the place. I've just moved into the new office, you see. The prestigious Pastaria University. The penultimate institute for research into our mystical world, and all the friends you'll find therein. There's always room for new students at Pastaria U. Just remember our school motto. Don't mention Spagonia. Anywho, I was just about to recount the many solved and unsolved questions around the Starfall Islands. It's been a hot topic, you know, as we eagerly await the next great adventure. Some a lot more eagerly than others, and I can't help but shake the feeling we're soon to unearth even more surprises. Now then, let's make it official. Welcome to the secrets of the Starfall Islands. Turns out, a remarkable amount of secrets fits into one small box. When Sonic Frontiers hit the scene back in 2022, the biggest mystery was whether Sonic Team survives to see 2023. But, thanks to a stellar fan reception, and a willingness to overlook a few bugs here and there, Sonic Frontiers shot up to be the highest-selling 3D game in the franchise, and earned the highest honour a video game can receive, being ravenously torn apart by the fans. You see, since the dawn of history we have wondered in vain what incredible mysteries led to the formation of our world. Thankfully, Sonic the Hedgehog came along, and now we've got most of it figured out. Lucky us. Why, it's almost enough to make the rest of us look incompetent. According to the reports of one Miles Tails Prower, the ancients were a nomadic species of particularly gooey alien, who formed history's first great civilization after their own planet was given the old moon treatment. This predates all of our recorded history by thousands of years. Incidentally, the ancients were originally pitched as a new species to Sonic's world, but lead writer and beloved comic book alumni Ian Flynn pitched the idea of linking them to Chaos, the god of destruction! We'll cover that evolutionary mishap a little later, but as you can see, the family resemblance is clear. Or perhaps carbonated. They do seem terribly bubbly. Bubbly. The ancients, no stranger to families. They originally had 5 powerful clans back on their home Terra. While some of the information may come from unscrupulous sources, there is evidence for this, shown in the design of their great war machines, the Titans. Originally named for the Colossus, to tie in with the whole Greek naming convention we have going on the island, each Titan shares a likeness to one of those lost clans. One ancient tribe was known for their powerful warrior-like build, larger, broader than the ancients depicted on the island. Giganto, first among Titans, shares a similar nacho-shaped physique. We can also tell from the laser display the ancients were big Godzilla fans. But since Sonic and the Big G are teaming up now, I'll give it a pass. Then we have the clan with tails instead of legs. So Wyvern then, since they're the only Titan without feet. A tribe with 4 legs, akin to the knight on Chaos Island, master of figure skating. A tribe who soared through the sky on wings, clearly an inspiration for Supreme. Ever notice how Supreme's wings disappear the second the cutscene is over? And finally, a tribe said to be the most intelligent of all. Sadly, from what accounts we can gather, this is the only tribe to have survived the extinction event, thanks to their incredible invention, the Chaos Engines! This prehistoric marvel put galaxies between the ancients and their sadistic spherical stalker, and gave the last surviving ancients a chance to make their stand on none other than the Starfall Islands. So what were the Chaos Engines? And, more importantly, where are they now? Well, I'm sure you've heard of the Chaos Emeralds. 7 gemstones of mystical power, limitless energy. I have one right here. No, you can't touch it. Now imagine our surprise when these ancient emeralds turned out to be not of this world. Not that we have any shortage of other magical rocks. Whether they are natural or manufactured, the emeralds came from the ancient homeworld, which, given all the Greek names so far, was probably called Atlantis or something. That is, until the Chaos Emeralds locked onto a powerful energy source right here on Earth, and got reeled in like a catfish caught by a fishing cat. A magnet pull from an almighty gemstone. We now call this particular rock the Master Emerald, and its legends are plenty. I guess before this it was just the lone emerald. Are we to assume the gemstones were never supposed to communicate like this? Is the power to neutralize the Chaos Emeralds and lift the Isles just a side effect of a greater purpose? Well, Ian Flynn had to remind the powers that be that the Master Emerald even has these abilities, as was mentioned in his podcast.
Just style on everybody.
He received a note that simply read, "No, it doesn't." Oh, well, that's just swell. Fine and dandy then. I guess being big and shiny is all it's good for. On the bright side, they have at least hired a continuity manager, so the secret of the Master Emerald may be one we still get to explore. So, after making fast friends with the ground, what became of the engines and the ships? Well, thanks to Robotnik's records, we do know a little bit about what's under the Starfall Islands. Supposedly, incredible infrastructure was built deep underground, hosting the ancients' most critical technology.
Moreover, the highways were full of energy, brimming from underground. The vehicles could replenish energy just by going through tunnels or passing over dash panels. There was no need for filling stations.
According to some cut dialogue, one of these marvels includes an emerald-powered grid that would have powered a shield so large it could have defended the entire planet from danger. Good thing it's underground, or we might have had to render it. But alas, the area is deemed off-limits while cyberspace still poses danger to research teams. Oh, yes, cyberspace. The Ancients' magnum opus. A digital Avalon where ancients live on everlasting, never to experience the horrors that is uploading to YouTube on this campus dial-up connection! Since we're talking about the geography of the Isle, why don't we dissect the game's largest and most famous conspiracy? That is, the islands themselves. Behold! With 5 shores, Rhea, Kronos, Eris, Chaos, and Uranus. As diverse and vibrant as the Unreal Asset Store could make them. But among 5 large islands, we only have 3 biomes: forest, desert, tundra. Why is that? Well, perhaps you've already heard there were originally only 3 islands. It's not a well-guarded secret. Even Eggman spilled the oak on that one.
And yet they didn't seem to influence the world beyond these 3 piddly islands. Why?
And we know, thanks to director Kishimoto-san, that Kronos, Rhea, and Uranus together formed the original island used for playtesting. But when these playtests came back overwhelmingly that it was too large and too empty, getting some Sonic 06 feeling off of that one, it was decided to break the islands into more palatable chunks, with Eris and Chaos reduced in size to match. And I do mean reduced in size. You can even see on the shallow water map where the landscape was grabbed and squeezed
down.
You can't exactly blame the playtesters either. At this early stage in development, there weren't even rails or puzzles in the game. Those were added later. Can you imagine frontiers with no parkour? We really were this close to disaster. So we now know what happened to those original 3 islands, but did you know the scholars now debate the existence of a planned 4th island? Well, we already discussed the Ancients' world ship, stranded in the belly of the beast, but what I've yet to mention is cut content from the game implying these ships were originally accessible to the player at some point in the game's final act.
It is what remains of the Ancients' world ship. It was their ark to this world. Sonic, can you hear me? I have found a new route. Join me. Sonic, I believe I can access the ship's ruins. Join me.
Some have speculated that Uranus, named for the god of the sky, may have originally been a space setting. Quite fitting for one of Sonic's usual endgames. To cap off this emerging theory, this mysterious island map, shown prior to release, has been cited as the original Uranus Island, with this large indented area as the Ancients' world ship. while others have noted the similarity between this unused beta map and the finalized Chaos Island, meaning this mysterious fourth zone may have to stay a myth. Oh, there we are. What if I told you I was engaging in the oldest form of art on Earth? A contest so obscure that for years, academics believed this to be part of a mourning ritual. If you've ever seen photographs of the Starfall Islands, you might be familiar with these. They are called cairns, or cairns, meaning a heap of stones. Sonic? Anyway, these historic rock columns were believed to be markers of the ancients who were lost during the great besieging of the Isle. Like a gravestone, however... Yes, well, people were quick to point out that Sonic blitzing through fields, knocking over gravestones, was a little insensitive. Thankfully, this mystery was cleared up in Final Horizons by a little girl with some big shoes to fill.
They competed to see who could stack stones higher without them falling over. The winner was determined not just by the height, but the difficulty and aesthetic beauty of their stack. It was so popular that they even had annual competitions.
It turns out the researchers were wrong. These are not burial mounds at all, but evidence of the planet's first ever sporting event. Jenga! But the ancients did in fact leave behind something to mark their passing, a physical totem of their time here on Earth, and the lives they led. These are the Cocos. Not just a time-tackling trinket, these totems are closer to a flash drive than a fashion statement, storing the thoughts and experiences of its bearer, like a backup of sorts. Not this one though. This is papier-mâché. When a Coco fulfills its purpose, the energies escape and form this emblem in the sky. Is this the memories of the ancient returning to cyberspace, to be part of a collective? Or perhaps some kind of soul passing to the afterlife? This remains one of the Starfall's greatest mysteries. While the function of the Coco remains unclear, we are assured the ancients had one of the most unusual forms of preservation known on Earth, storing their very essence in cyberspace, attaining an eternal peace as a kind of social media hive mind. Ugh.
They're together now. You take a minute. I'm gonna keep moving.
And as terrifying as that sounds, I've been assured it was considered a good thing. The cyberspace network preserved the thoughts of the ancients into a superintelligence that persisted for millennia. Until Eggman got his hands on it, of course. Now, if you're an inquiring mind, you might be thinking, an alien species forming a collective hive intelligence. That sounds terribly similar to the Black Arms who invaded Earth some years ago. After all, their alien warlord did share intelligence across all biospecimens in his army, each one of them a piece of a greater whole. But unlike the Black Arms, the ancients still held their individuality, even in death. Their loves, their bonds, the hopes for a future lasting thousands of years after their passing. Yes, I don't believe Black Doom would be capable of something so beautiful. But perhaps the Black Arms are a lecture for another day. Ah, now I mentioned this symbol in the sky. Does it look familiar at all? If you were part of the conversation back in the early 2020s, I'm sure this teaser still haunts your dreams. The Zap, as the community dubbed it, was the first assumption of what the game's title would be. Sonic Zap doesn't quite hit the same. Instead, we discovered it was just a piece of an alien language. Its meaning? Well, that's the thing. We still don't know what in the Sunset Hill this thing is supposed to say. So why then does it not only appear in the trailer, but all over the game itself? Well, among the hidden content of the game is a selection of unusual type fonts, nothing connected to any known language, that appears to be UI elements for the ancients' text. While there is scarce information to be found, some theorize that collecting pieces of the ancient language could have been intended as a method of unlocking abilities within the game, as well as giving some meaning to the loanword symbols that appear. Further evidence can be found right here! Oh, delivered to our fair campus by none other than noble aquatic scholar Big the Cat. This ancient tablet can be fished up from the lakes of the Starfall Islands, and its description is such: an inscribed stone tablet. It has the same message in 3 languages, including mysterious glyphs, so it could serve as a key to deciphering them. Now, it says 3 languages, and yet the only script visible on this tablet is a single Coco language, implying what ended up in the assets did not match the original vision. though I've heard there are some who've managed to make a breakthrough in deciphering them.
Oh, yeah. That's the ancient tablet I fished out with Big the other day.
According to all known laws of aviation...
What?
Myself? Frankly, I can't make heads or tails of the thing. Perhaps my monocle isn't fancy enough. So much talk of cyberspace and memories. Would be such a terrible thing to have everything you know slip away from you. Sonic's tangle with dimensions was intended to have much darker side effects. We may only have shards of the puzzle left, but clues remain of a secret original script that went for more personal stakes for our Hedgehog, the cyber-corruption unwinding the threads of his memories and friendships.
This is real, right? I'm still here, aren't I? My friends. This is for my friends, remember? I'm so cold now. Numb. Objective complete. My name is...
As Sonic dashed his way across the aisles, the cyber-corruption would have become more severe, stripping away his motivations and ultimately his identity. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Fortunately for me, I have a mind like a steel trap. Not even cyberspace could crack this fluffy noggin. I've only left my slacks at home once since I started working here. You know what, forget that part. Hear how his words become automated, like his mind becomes more machine than hog. Though at least his connection would be super fast unlike this dang dial-up! Even with this content removed from the final game, there are plenty of moments linking Sonic's mind to cyberspace, like how all the zones are constructed from places he's been, or repeating old level layouts. Haven't touched White Jungle in a while? Feeling nostalgic for some rooftop run? Cyberspace has you covered. And in the final horizon, we have this interesting exchange with Sage.
Don't you see them too?
The current iteration of cyberspace was formed based on your memories. Since linking with it, your memories are now affecting things even outside of cyberspace.
Well, that canonizes all the rails and springs being part of Sonic's mental link to cyberspace. Unused animations also show these floating assets phasing in and out of existence instead of popping in a few meters in front of you, but this was cut for performance limitations. We may never know why Sonic's mind was spared in the final draft, but it does bear uncanny similarities to another story Ian Flynn worked on around the same time, the Metal Virus arc of IDW. Both stories featured the hero gradually corrupted from the inside at risk of losing himself. Were these stories too similar? Was one idea repurposed into another? Sadly, Ian Flynn won't return my calls, so the jury is out. But Sonic wasn't the only one who had his journey changed. Please, hold your chuckles, because we need to talk about Knuckles. The Echidna's role in the Starfall adventure was revealed early on thanks to a most excellent divergence animation, which showed us the daily life of a Guardian before he stumbled upon a warp gear on Angel Island, of all places. While the presence of a cyberspace gate near the Master Emerald Shrine is worth investigation on its own merit, the rest of the short features Knuckles punching drones and showing why he is rougher than the rest of them. No reason to bring it up really, I just think it's neat. Why can't we have a whole anime like this? But it does feed into some more missing content from our marsupial friend. In the original script, Knuckles is featured in the opening cinematic, the one with Tails flying the tornado into a wormhole, and he even has speaking lines. This means he would never have been captured prior to the events of Frontiers, and Divergence would never have happened. Noticeably, Knuckles says he doesn't have to worry about being away from Angel Island, because he hid it from the world, and refuses to tell Sonic where or how. Was it really that easy, Knuckles? So, this brings us to an interesting divide, not caused by cut content, but by language. You see, in the Western edition of Frontiers, Knuckles' great revelation is he wants to get out there and see more of the world, like Sonic the Hedgehog. However, in the Japanese version, his new purpose translates to discovering more about his own people, the Echidna. Quite a stark difference, wouldn't you agree? The Japanese text could imply that whatever comes next for Knuckles might have direct connections to the fate of the Echidna, something that hasn't been touched in quite some time. Since we're asking the big questions here, there is one more wrench in the Echidna machine, a mystery that, to this day, no one has even begun to solve, and it lays right at his feet. Literally. In the Final Horizon expansion, when Knuckles is busy connecting fists with wall, you will eventually arrive at this spot, overlooking the island. Seems unremarkable enough, right? Well, you might have noticed these coloured Psyloop spots. Much like Sonic, his friends can perform loops to unlock hidden rewards. And if you happen to Psyloop this box, Knuckles will be rewarded with a ruddy salmon. Why? What is the purpose of this? Why does activating this specific piece of cyberspace summon a fish? A single fish in the middle of a field. Why? Thankfully, we know Echidna do not have fish in their diet, meaning he may have taken him home to Angel Island, where he lives a happy fish life to this very day. Of course, we can't discuss the microwave menace without also covering the Master Emerald. After decades of knowing the shiny green boy as the centerpiece of Angel Island and the Hidden Sanctuary, Sonic Frontiers shows up and gives about as much respect to our history books as Dr. Eggman does for a petting zoo. So much for the campus library. Biology has hit a dead end, history has seen better days, and archaeology is 6 feet under! Thanks to the Ancients' knowledge, we now know the Master Emerald and the Chaos Emeralds have two entirely different origins. The former buried on our planet's shores, possibly for millennia, with the latter being formed in space! Incidentally, that does create a pattern with the magical stones here on Earth. If the Master Emerald is the only native emerald, that means we have one emerald, one ruby, one topaz. What other magical gems could we have? What about a sapphire? Perhaps there's a jade on the horizon. With the Phantom Ruby controlling illusion and the Warp Topaz making portals, what other incredible powers will soon follow? Could we finally see fusion? Please, Sega! As for who found the Master Emerald, it's fair to assume the survivors of the Ancients' last remaining tribe made their pilgrimage to the Mystic Jungle. This was thousands of years before the landmass was split to form Angel Island, following the rampage of one primordial chaos. That is supported by Knuckles' Divergence, where the Red Ruffian finds a cyberspace portal hidden on the belly of Angel Island. This proves the land, which later became vertically challenged, was once a settlement of greater ancient networks. Of course, after the last ancients vanished, there was no one left to share its secrets with the Echidna who came after, or countless other civilizations that could have settled there. Like whoever left all these avian monuments behind. They must have been quite a prideful sort to put their face on everything. So if the ancients built the Master Shrine, perhaps all of Sky Sanctuary, did they also leave behind the famous mural of the brilliant shining hedgehog fighting the forces of darkness? If so, perhaps the prophecy was more science than magic. Well, during his stay on the Starfall Islands, Knuckles can't help but draw comparison between this place and his home. But those connections may have gone deeper than we realized. Notably, right after Knuckles compares the structure on Ares Island to those on Angel Island, Sonic can access this little area. A small sanctuary holding a large, shattered purple gem. Now it would be one thing for the player to note the striking similarity to the Master Emerald, but Sonic himself even makes this connection in some unused dialogue, and to quote, "This looks like the shrine on Angel Island, and that looks like a broken, off-colour Master Emerald." If true, the implication there is that multiple Master Emeralds existed at some point in the past, which would have world-shattering ramifications. But I have my doubts. For example, the game's writer has denied the duplicate emerald played any part in the original script. But if that's so, why does it exist? Right in the location where Knuckles was reminded of the Hidden Sanctuary, there was even a cutscene for it. Oh yes, and the Bumblecast also tells us the Genesis image used in the final game was misplaced, and the Hidden Sanctuary from Sonic 3 and Knuckles was supposed to be used instead. Makes a lot more sense for Knuckles to be nostalgic for his shrine and the emerald he swore to protect, rather than that one time he punched the stones out of Sonic. Then again, he did seem to really enjoy that. Even Shadow got in on the action. Sadly, the Master Emerald connection has too many dead ends to follow. Many of the links related to this cut dialogue, including the original sources, seem to have disappeared without a trace. Now, that is a mystery. Now that Pandora's box has been opened, will the Master Emerald be a focal point in a future title? Perhaps a return to Angel Island after so long? Imagine an open zone return to Mushroom Hill, Sky Sanctuary, and Hydro City. Oh no. Let's take a quick Chaos Cola break. One secret that caught me off guard was the change in the Chow's evolutionary cycle. You see, I myself spent many years studying Chow in the garden reservations. And it's been explored for decades now that the being known as Chaos, acclaimed god of destruction, was actually a mutated Chow. Sadly, nobody has discovered exactly what triggers this transformation from squishy water baby to H2 oh my god run for your life, but sources of this mutation run back to the Japanese Sonic Adventure 1 strategy guide. In fact, with the right combination of animals and Chaos drives, one can provoke a Chow's development in such a way to create the Chaos Chow. Chaos Chow. An immortal pet with features matching the ancient beast himself. With a transformation like this, caused by Chaos drives, perhaps the same process at a greater scale could create a god. And here is where Sonic Frontiers befuddles the puzzles, laying out a timeline where the surviving ancients who fled to Angel Island would gradually become the jelly tots we know as Chow. In fact, one of Eggman's lackeys was kind enough to share his research on the matter.
But a couple of them stuck around and eventually turned into these little water babies. Aren't they so cute?
Official word is that prolonged exposure to radiation from the Master Emerald caused the ancient's DNA to change.
No, he's still a mutated Chow. The mutation is he looks like their ancestors. The mutation is a rollback to the previous thing. He's still a mutant Chow.
Ironic then that the species who once coded their own paradise would evolve to enjoy the natural paradise found right here on Earth. This would also explain Chaos's particular affinity for emeralds. After all, the emeralds would have been constructed to work with the ancients' biology. You could say he was the last remaining heir to their legacy. I, on the other hand, have my own theory. Yes, all this talk of radiations and mutations, and we've overlooked the obvious link. Carbonation. That's right, the ancients' watery form as the hidden ingredient to Chaos Cola. It's the secret Big Soda doesn't want you to know, and I have notes. Oh, never mind. Looks like we're being called to crack the biggest case on the Isles. The legendary Titans, and their lost finale that could have been. These stonking great units were the ancients' final line of defense. Colossal war machines grafted right here on Earth to inspire the great question. If not Evangelion, then why Evangelion-shaped? We've already touched on the different designs, so let's go a little deeper. How were they made? Why were they made? Who were they made? The game itself only holds fractured clues to a tale that could have been, but thanks to some concept art and a bit of creator commentary, we can fit these puzzle pieces back together. By the by, Sonic Frontiers has some of the coolest looking concept art of any Sonic game to date. Look at these landscapes, like they mashed the works of Miyazaki and Miyazaki together. And then we have this spectacle. A Chaos Island concept art showing an enormous factory complex built into the mountains, what is clearly a partially constructed Giganto. They were built right here, born citizens of our planet Earth. And what's more, since they're already active Gigantos stomping about somewhere, the ancients were intending to build an entire squadron of these big O's. Mario Kishimoto, apprentice of Segata Sanshiro, would later tweet about an abandoned Titan factory stage, whether as its own level, or potentially as a mini-boss. And while it's not really a mystery, it is cool to see some of the unfinished Supreme combat animations cut from the game have been restored, so we can see them firsthand. I just think they're neat. So, let's go a level deeper on our Titan-sized iceberg, with some characters who do appear in Sonic Frontiers, but you'd be forgiven for missing them. I'm speaking of Dragon, Snake, Tiger, and Crane. Still in the dark? Well, thanks to Final Horizon, we now know that these are the names of the 4 ancient heroes who piloted the Titan mechs in their battle with the End. Incidentally, these names are also used in each of their respective trials, thanks to Ian Flynn for pointing that one out. Known collectively as the Heroes of Ancient Times, this elite squadron was trained by Master King Koko himself, prior to becoming a lawn ornament, and given the critical task of protecting the new world from annihilation. And thanks to the Koko, we can even see how dedicated ancient society was to supporting their mission, with many of the peoples on the ground forming combat units, building the Great Wall, or supporting critical machines. Lots of those little Kokos still reliving those moments, even now. Goodness, that's depressing. Can you tell this was the same author who gave us the Metal Virus saga? I'm just saying, this is what 20 years of writing about hedgehogs does to a man. But on a hopeful note, it was this very meeting between Master King and the Crane, the pilot for Supreme, which spawned a backup plan that would change history as we know it. To think, one desperate decision could build thousands of years of archaeological discovery, just like my astroscopic lens. I got a good price at a garage sale. And speaking of bargains, what's better than one ending? That's right, 2 endings. We're all familiar with Sonic's first venture into the bullet hell shooter genre, but there is a line right here that struck me as odd, even right from the get-go.
He took your home world. He took your lives. Are you going to let him do it all over again? I need your help.
Who exactly is Sonic speaking to here? Nobody else is with him. It's just Sage piloting the stolen Supreme robot. He talks as if trying to motivate the Ancients or the fallen heroes into making a last stand against the end, but they aren't here. Add to that the tutorial tip right here that says Sonic must work alongside the Titans, plural. A finale which was, at one time, fully planned to close this climactic adventure. The director has been very open about the production on Frontiers having to be restarted multiple times over. This took its toll in both time and money, eventually leading to a major delay and Sonic Frontiers missing its expected anniversary release. But remember, a game is only delayed until it ships, but a rushed game is bad forever. A quote frequently misattributed to the Plumber Daddy, but true all the same. Then we have moments where the powers that be bring down the hammer themselves. Yes, I think we're deep enough in the rabbit hole we can finally talk about it. The fabled return that returned to being just a fable. Let's talk Hypersonic. Fans have anticipated this rainbow return for over 30 years, and time and again the answer is always...
So is there any way to become hypersonic anymore?
I think no.
But by jolly, you had best believe Ian Flynn was going to try. According to his statement, his original pitch for the ending saw Sonic cracking out the photosensitivity warning as hypersonic. Whether by the Super Emeralds or cyber corruption, it's unclear. But this would have resulted in a hyper-power smackdown against the end in a final Titan-style boss fight. Well, sadly, Sega Japan had other ideas. Reportedly, the executives had a powerful reluctance to slip in the power creep famous in so many shonen anime. You know the ones with heroes breaking their limits and reaching new levels of incredible might. Who watches anime though? It couldn't be me. It's a stance they've held firm ever since Sonic 3 and Knuckles in the classic days, instead opting for more parallel forms that aren't necessarily more powerful, but serve different needs, like Excalibur Sonic from Black Knight or the Prism Sonic in Sonic Prime. While some may lament, I do agree with Izuka-san on this. Super Sonic must never be redundant, for he is the golden spark of hope, the culmination of this world's most powerful artifacts that turns dreams into power. I mean, what could go beyond that? Say hello to Super Sonic 2, even superer than before. At least, that's what many people assume. Super Sonic 2 was first revealed in the 2023 teaser trailer for Final Horizons as its big story mode splash. You know, the new ending to replace the old ending that was totally finished and not the least bit cobbled together. This sent speculation through the roof, with most fans landing on this being some kind of a cyberspace Sonic, channeling his corruption to go even further beyond. So where did the name Super Sonic 2 actually come from? Because it's not in the teaser, it's not in the marketing materials, it's certainly not in the game. Games don't even have manuals anymore. In fact, nobody involved in the project ever called this Super Sonic 2. The name was actually found in a .pac file in the game's internal directory. The document containing the model data for the updated Super Skin, supersonic.pac. People went rummaging through the game's files and behold, they found gold. But those with their nose for code sensed something was off. You see, assets in a game don't typically carry full proper nouns. A mesh for an object will often be separated based on things like textures, particle effects, or what rendering pipeline it's intended for. Or in situations like this, named for the original mesh they were built from. Super Sonic 2 is, by all evidence, exactly that. a variation on Supersonic's original model, built for the DLC and named for sorting. I totally knew all of this and didn't have my son explain it to me on social media. So, if it wasn't intended to be a super duper supersonic, what is it? Well, I'd again point to the parallel transformations like Dark or Werehog Sonic. All the forms mentioned are specific to the world and story they exist in. In the Starfall saga, Master King Coco helps Sonic to channel his cyber corruption. However, once the end makes its way to Earth, nothing Supersonic can do is able to touch it. Even with perfect timing and the power of the emeralds behind him, Sonic simply cannot interface with the end's attacks. Its power's intangible, like an eldritch monstrosity with Wi-Fi. That is, until Sonic taps into his cyber powers. His new form bridges the gap between mortal and cyberspace, meaning that Sonic can now swat back at the end's attacks with an aura farming level of ease. While this might imply a staggering power-up, it's also possible the question was never is Sonic strong enough to fend him off, but is a mortal capable of fending them off? Remember, it did take the ancient heroes trapping the end in cyberspace to halt its advance. No physical means was enough to defeat it. And even in the original ending, it was Sage who was able to suppress the end's final attack and protect the world. She's a digital being also. So, once Sonic tapped into the digital corruption, he played on the end's dimension. And when you're on an even footing with Supersonic, expect a butt kicking. Alas, there's been no official word as to which title is correct. In fact, the only statement we have is that behind the development curtain, a completely different name was being used, one that is now defunct.
The internal term is Starfall Supersonic?
Ooh, that's what I'm calling it going forward. I think that's badass.
I guess we'll have to see where the minds at Sega land on this one. Or, more likely, Jakks Pacific will drop the name in a toy line somewhere, but beggars can't be choosers. All this talk of finality, and we haven't even touched on the looming threat. What actually was the end, aside from a menacing orb who cracked planets like walnuts? Let's start with what we do know. While the egosphere may have appeared as a moon to us, there were multiple warnings the end's true form is incalculable. Hinted when we see during the flashbacks that he was not defined by any form at all, but a shimmering glow. Ah, so it wasn't the trees that were moaning after all. Going even deeper, Kishimoto has said in his QA that we never saw the true form of the end, and what each character witnesses is a reflection of their own fears and their perception of death. So, what's your pick? Husbando, Goth Girl, or Santa Claus? Despite this, all characters in the game proper seem to have only witnessed the end as a large purple moon. Really now, who's scared of a moon? Naturally, there's been discourse regarding how powerful the end truly was. Depending where you look at the production side, the end was either a metaphor for the real-life closure of the franchise, or a one-time villain with ambitions above their station. To cite the experts on the matter, Ian Flynn expressed that the end was seemingly boastful, and previous enemies like Solaris, Eater of Timelines, exceeded it in power. While Kishimoto has claimed that even Giganto, merely the first among Titans, rivals any of Sonic's previous opponents. As the Starfall saga is the most recent adventure for Sonic and his friends, it's safe to say no ideas are set in stone. The end's power level is, to date, a mystery.
Now face your end.
Which brings me to the most interesting part of the end. Its symbolism as a very dark time for Sonic and the franchise. Even before the game's launch, comments were circulating from Sonic Team that this game could be the one to finally put the Hedgehog to rest. A real-life ending that hasn't loomed since the days of the Dreamcast era. No coincidence then that this was the game that pits Sonic against the very embodiment of finality, the last chapter of a journey, and an inescapable end. So, were the Starfall Islands the stage where this wounded franchise would finally bow out? Absolutely not! In fact, series composer Tomoya Otani said the ending theme, One Way Dream, contained a special message from Sonic Team, a declaration of their intent to never stop running and never say die.
Our sights are set, on the moon. Let's show the world what we can do.
And I'd be lying if I said it didn't put a smile on my stash that the game which pit Sonic the Hedgehog up against the looming threat of demise was the same game that pulled the franchise from oblivion and gave it a fresh chance at life. So why, in Gaia's name, is there a rabbit on the moon? For context, Mario Kishimoto himself would say that Frontier's finale is based on a tale by that very name. While few scholars pursue this connection, I think it says a lot about what inspired their decision. You see, Rabbit on the Moon is the name of a very old fable from a strange land where they survive on gacha and bubble tea. Trouble is, when a story has been around for so long, it tends to mutate a little. There are actually multiple versions of Rabbit on the Moon, so take your pick. The Japanese version of the legend is about a rabbit living on the moon making rice cake. If there's a connection here, I'm not seeing it. The Chinese version involves rabbits creating the elixir of immortal life. This clicks thematically, as cyberspace does prove some kind of immortality in the story. The Aztec telling involves a rabbit being thrown at the moon so hard it breaks in half. Wait a minute. Oh, you know what? I didn't believe it, but I think we have a winner. This same legend has also been referenced in other big pop culture, such as Dragon Ball, or One Punch Man, or the greatest manga of all time, Akira. Even the Sonic movie has small animals beating up the moon. Coincidence? If Kishimoto is ever unbanned from the internet, somebody be sure to ask him about the moon rabbit. Let's round off Sonic's multitude of menacing menagerie and poke into the secret villains that never were. The Starfall Islands, you see, have a whole ecosystem of cyberspace naughties for the heroes to contend with, some of whom have made a real name for themselves among the fans. But for all the ones we have seen, there are many others that disappeared, such as the legendary golden variants found in the game's digital art book. The director confirmed that these powered-up versions of enemies were scrapped due to memory limitations, specifically memory limitations on the Switch hardware. Did we learn nothing from Rise of Lyric? Well, Kishimoto has said that the work on these special enemies was reused elsewhere in production, meaning that the special elites in Final Horizon might have been repurposed from these golden robos. Speaking of cut, can we address the fact that one of these baddies is labelled Gun Truck in the game files? By Gaia, he's back for blood! Though this was likely an enemy planned for the Highway Cyberspace stage, which was itself modelled after City Escape from SA2. So a scripted gun truck scene was entirely possible. They already have this thing buzzsawing and the ability to drive on walls. What else were these madmen planning? I fear the gun truck might have joined the orca whales in Sonic's roster of personal drama. And if we're digging even deeper to things that didn't even make it into the game files, let's excavate an old leak from the No-No website, all the way back before Frontiers was officially announced. The leak, posed by a very naughty someone under an NDA, discussed the upcoming 3D Sonic game, its mechanics in detail, and has since been confirmed to be entirely legitimate, and sadly inspired a great many fake leaks ever since. Oh dear. But the biggest discrepancy between what they reported and what we eventually saw was the nature of the virtual villainess herself, Sage Robotnik. Multiple leaked tests from the early game describe this ghost girl, who would assist Sonic in his journey and even had unique mechanics in order to play to boss fights. All examples of Sage given in the playtest describe her as helping Sonic instead of being an adversary. Now, this could be dismissed as just something for the playtest build, except we do know that there was story content for Miss Robotnik that didn't get used, such as the mystery dialogue clips.
Perhaps now you'll give up and just stay with me?
We may never know if this was intended for Dr. Eggman or for Sonic and his friends, whether intended for Sage to hold on to her creator captive or trying to keep Sonic's soul forever in cyberspace. Whatever the original vision was, we can at least rest easy knowing that she found the compassionate ending. All's well that ends well, eh? Now, you might be wondering why I'm wearing this stylish headpiece. Well, you see, I have it on good authority that the vocal theme for Sonic Frontiers holds a secret all of its own. The song, Vandalize by Japanese group One OK Rock, was licensed to be used with the game, but an original version exists with its own lyrics. What hidden message must it contain? I simply must find out. Oh my Gaia! Well, I surmise we have just enough time left to cover one last dazzling topic. One that is very close to my heart. You see, back in the halcyon days of 2022, the Tales channel debuted its first episode. And among its various lore drops, we were given this image, showing many familiar faces of Sonic Unleashed, but with one perplexing addition. The famous purple-haired lady was never a part of Unleashed's cast, and her inclusion would dig a rabbit's hole that would span almost 5 years. I am, of course, speaking of Professor Victoria, one of the brightest minds in archaeology, and Station Time's best-selling author 4 years running. You see, while the community was feeding on scraps for a long time, in the last 2 years we've learned a lot about this mysterious teacher. Her original appearance was tied to the events of Unleashed, and the university that shall not be named within these hallowed halls. Then we uncovered her name, as well as her occupation, in the Happy New Year Tales Tube episode.
Happy New Year!
After, players with a sharp eye for detail noticed the gun document, written on Gerald Robotnik's journal, was penned by an agent signing her name as T, one with a deep interest in the fate of the Robotnik family. Let's ignore the Japanese just straight up signed it from Tori, since that does suck some of the mystery out of it. The Chaotix case file has confirmed Victoria's role as a special consultant for the Federation and Gun.
I'm an archaeologist specializing in artifacts of arcane power across the 4 great civilizations.
Such as my astroscopic lenses. Speaking of which, where the hell did that go? One thing at a time. In fact, young Miles Prower even had an exclusive interview with the professor at her office, and had the chance to discuss many of her accomplishments and passions for history at her office with Professor Tori. It's not fair. It should have been me, not him! It's not fair! If Frontiers 2 follows its predecessor's footsteps in exploring the unearthed questions of the world, I strongly feel that Professor Victoria and her passion for the forgotten civilizations, like the Gaians, may play a hand in that. Her role in the franchise might still be a secret, but it's one we might get the answer to any day now. I just can't shake the feeling that we're missing a piece. And with that, we reach our present day. We've covered the great many secrets of these old and lonely isles, but who knows, perhaps we'll get the chance to return there again someday. Until then, I put to you, internet scholars, do you think Professor Victoria will be playing a role in the next journey? Will we be exploring one of the great civilizations? Will I be able to edit this thing before Sega makes another announcement? If you'd like to join us for more lectures, I have some great news. Here at Pastaria University, we have neither tuition fees nor student loans. You simply have to click on the subscribe button or join us over on our Patreon. What's that? We don't have a Patreon. Clarissa, open a Patreon. Alas, until we meet again, I hope you'll continue to chase knowledge and let your love for this strange world guide you. Let me know what you'd like to see covered in a future lecture. And remember, you are always welcome at Pastaria University. It's been a treat. Class dismissed.